Picture this. The year is 1938, and the sun beats down on the dusty outskirts of Baghdad. A team of archaeologists works methodically in the scorching heat, their brushes flicking away centuries of soil from ancient ruins. The air is heavy with the scent of clay and earth, each breath carrying the weight of history. Amid the fragments of pottery and corroded tools, one small clay jar emerges from the ground. At first glance, it's nothing extraordinary, about the size of a hand, worn and simple. But inside, hidden beneath the crust of time, lies a tightly rolled copper cylinder, an iron rod at its center, beesone, and a mysterious yellowish residue clinging to the jar's inner wall. No one yet realizes it, but this modest find will ignite decades of debate and curiosity. The jar is carefully transported to a museum in Baghdad, where it sits quietly among other Mesopotamian artifacts, until an inquisitive museum director named Wilhelm Koenig examines it closely. Koenig, trained in art history but deeply interested in ancient technologies, notices the strange combination of copper and iron. To a trained eye, this isn't just decorative or symbolic, it's functional. He begins to theorize, could this be some kind of galvanic cell? In other words, a primitive battery? His proposal is met with skepticism. After all, the jar is estimated to date back more than Ling years, to the Parthian or Sassanid period, long before the supposed invention of electricity. Yet, the idea plants a seed that will grow far beyond the museum's walls. In the years that follow, researchers and enthusiasts attempt to recreate the Baghdad Battery, using replicas of the clay jar, copper tube, and iron rod. When filled with an acidic liquid such as vinegar or grape juice, the replicas produce a small but measurable electrical charge, enough to give a faint tingle or to power a simple object. Implications are staggering. If the ancient Persians understood even the basics of electrical current, what could they have been using it for? Theories spring up like desert wildflowers after rain, electroplating jewelry, medicinal therapy, or even religious rituals meant to inspire awe in worshippers. Some speculate that priests could have used the battery to deliver a mild shock during ceremonies, creating the illusion of divine power. Yet, as with many ancient mysteries, the skeptics have their own explanations. They argue that the jar's components could have been used for simple storage of scrolls or sacred texts, with the copper and iron serving symbolic or structural purposes rather than electrical ones. Without written records or definitive evidence, the debate rages on. The Baghdad Battery becomes a canvas onto which both scientists and dreamers project their ideas. It straddles the line between artifact and enigma, its silence only deepening the allure. Whether a misunderstood vessel or an ancient leap into the realm of electricity, the Baghdad Battery remains a tantalizing reminder that history may hold more technological surprises than we dare imagine. It challenges the tidy timelines we've built, suggesting that human ingenuity, like the current it may once have produced, has always found unexpected ways to spark into life, and perhaps, just perhaps, somewhere beneath the sands, other devices wait to tell their stories. Stories? If only we're willing to look. Decades after its discovery, the Baghdad Battery still finds itself at the center of documentaries, academic debates, and some fringe researchers link it to the possibility of lost civilizations with advanced knowledge, hinting at forgotten chapters in human history. While mainstream archaeology remains cautious, the artifact's very existence fuels curiosity. There's something undeniably thrilling about an object that refuses to fit neatly into the established story of technological progress. For many, it's not about proving one theory right, it's about keeping the door open to questions we haven't even thought to ask yet. This openness to the unknown is, in many ways, the lifeblood of discovery. Modern experimental archaeologists continue to push the limits of what the Baghdad Battery could do. In carefully controlled lab settings, scientists test replicas under different conditions, adjusting the metals, adjusting the depth, altering the acidity of the liquid, and chaining multiple jars together. These experiments show that a series of Baghdad batteries could produce enough voltage to coat small objects in gold or silver through electroplating. Imagine ancient craftsmen hunched over in dimly lit workshops, dipping jewelry into strange solutions, while copper and iron vessels quietly hummed with invisible energy. The image is tantalizing, a blend of art, science, and mystery that collapses the gap between ancient and modern. Yet the most fascinating aspect may be the human reaction to the artifact, rather than the artifact itself. Visitors to museums gaze at the small jar with puzzled expressions, often asking, how could they have known? This question reveals something deeper than historical curiosity. It's a reflection of our own assumptions about the past. We tend to imagine our ancestors as less capable, less imaginative, less inventive than ourselves. But time and again, objects like the Baghdad Battery remind us that human brilliance is a modern invention. It's a constant thread woven through every age. This perspective not only changes how we see the past, but also how we approach the present. The Baghdad Battery also serves as a cautionary tale about the fragility of knowledge. If it truly was a working electrical device, its purpose and method were entirely forgotten for centuries. That means technologies, no matter how clever, can vanish from the record without a trace if they aren't passed down. Wars, cultural upheavals, and the simple erosion of time can wipe away breakthroughs as if they never existed. For all our modern advancements, we too are vulnerable to such losses. What would happen if our own knowledge was scattered? Would a future civilization puzzle over our smartphones and wonder at their purpose, just as we do with this clay jar? In the end, the Baghdad Battery is more than just a curious object dug from the earth. It's a mirror. It reflects our urge to explore, to question, and to connect with the minds of those who came before us. It whispers across the ages that ingenuity is not bound by era, and that the quest to understand our world is a timeless human inheritance. Whether it was a tool, a ritual object, or something entirely unexpected, it has achieved something remarkable. It has kept the spark of wonder alive. And perhaps that, more than any electric charge, is its greatest power. Ancient workshop, the air heavy with the scent of clay and metal, sunlight filtering through small lattice windows. Craftsmen in indigo and saffron robes work side by side, some hammering thin sheets of gold, others carefully grinding minerals into vivid pigments. In the corner, a small clay jar, what we now call the Baghdad Battery, sits quietly on a wooden bench. Copper and iron peat from its neck, and inside, a liquid mixture gives off a faint, acidic tang. No one in the room calls it electricity, but they understand its effects, the power to transform raw metal into something luminous. It is not science in the modern sense. It is craft, magic, and mystery blended together. Centuries later, this jar would lie buried in the earth, its purpose forgotten. The world outside would change. Empires would rise and fall, languages would vanish, and knowledge would scatter like leaves in the wind. When the artifact was finally unearthed in the Jolbite censures, the people who found it could never have guessed the debate it would spark. Archaeologists examined its shape, chemists tested its contents, and historians argued over its meaning. Every discipline brought its own lens, yet none could provide a definitive answer. In this way, the Baghdad Battery became not just a relic, but a meeting point, a place where science, history, and imagination collide. What makes the Baghdad Battery especially intriguing is its ability to bridge cultures. If it was indeed used for electroplating, then it required knowledge that crossed boundaries, understanding of metals, chemistry, and artistry. This suggests that the people of its time were more interconnected than we often think. Ideas might have traveled along trade routes, carried by merchants and scholars, whispered in marketplaces and royal courts. The jar, then, is not just an artifact of one city, but a silent witness to the exchange of knowledge between civilizations. It reminds us that innovation often blooms at the crossroads where different worlds meet. Still, skeptics remain. Some argue that the jar was nothing more than a storage vessel for scrolls or sacred texts. They point out that without wires or evidence of large-scale use, the theory of ancient electricity rests on fragile ground, and perhaps they are right. But here lies the beauty of the mystery. We may never know for certain. That uncertainty keeps the story alive, inviting each new generation to test, to hypothesize, to dream. In a way, the Baghdad Battery's greatest achievement might not be what it did in the past, but what it continues to do in the present: ignite curiosity. As modern scientists reconstruct the jar and pass a tiny current through it, they become part of the same continuum as the ancient hands that once shaped it. The tools are different, the language more precise, but the impulse is the same: to understand, to experiment, to see what lies beyond the known. And whether the Baghdad Battery was a groundbreaking invention, or simply an object misinterpreted by time, it has already secured its place in the pantheon of history's most fascinating puzzles. It stands as a reminder that genius is not bound by centuries, and that sometimes the most ordinary-looking objects can carry the most extraordinary stories. The moment when the first tiny spark leaps from an ancient copper plate to a craftsman's fingertip, the surprise in his eyes, the quick withdrawal of his hand, the murmur of apprentices watching closely, it's a scene that could have happened 2,000 years ago. That spark might have been a simple accident, or perhaps the result of deliberate experimentation. Either way, it connects us across time, reminding us that curiosity is a constant companion in human history. The Baghdad Battery is more than an object, ethos. It is a bridge to moments like this, where innovation and wonder meet in a flash of light. In classrooms today, the Baghdad Battery has become a teaching tool not only for science, but for critical thinking. Teachers challenge students to analyze the evidence, to propose alternative theories, and to test them with modern materials. Some build replicas and measure voltage outputs, discovering for themselves that even ancient designs can produce measurable results. Others explore its cultural context, asking how such technology might fit into the daily life of its time. These exercises show that the true power of the Baghdad Battery may lie not in its original function, but in the questions it inspires. Beyond education, the artifact has also captured the imagination of storytellers. Writers and filmmakers have woven it into tales of lost civilizations, secret knowledge, and hidden power. In these stories, the jar becomes a key to unlocking other mysteries, a device that hints at forgotten empires or advanced technologies concealed beneath the sands of Mesopotamia. Whether in fiction or fact, the Baghdad Battery plays the same role, a symbol of the possibility that history still holds secrets waiting to be uncovered. Its enduring mystery fuels a kind of collective daydreaming, encouraging us to think not just about what was, but about what might have been. Some may dismiss this fascination as romanticizing the past, but there's value in letting our imagination wander. After all, many modern breakthroughs began as wild ideas, dismissed at first but pursued by those unwilling to let them go. The Baghdad Battery invites us to practice this same openness, It teaches us that history is not static. It shifts as new discoveries are made, as fresh perspectives are applied, as courage meets curiosity. In this way, the jar is not only a relic, but also a quiet challenge, asking us to be just as inventive in our interpretations as its creators may have been in their craftsmanship, you know? And so, as we stand in the present, gazing back across millennia at this unassuming clay vessel, we find ourselves part of the same story. We find ourselves part of the same story. We find ourselves, whether it was an ancient battery, a ritual object, or something else entirely, its significance lies in the dialogue it sparks between past and present. The Baghdad Battery reminds us that genius can be hidden in the humblest of forms, and that the quest to understand our ancestors is as much about our own future as it is about their world. In its silence, it speaks volumes, and in its mystery, it invites us to keep searching, keep questioning, and keep imagining, and that's the story of the mysterious Baghdad Battery, an ancient clay jar that may have carried the spark of electricity long before our modern age. Whether it powered rituals, experiments, or simply our imaginations, it's a reminder that history is full of puzzles still waiting to be solved. If you enjoyed uncovering this piece of the past, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Past Genius, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next journey into history's hidden innovations. Until then, keep your curiosity charged, because the past still has secrets to share